There are 5 kinds of people you should never fully trust, and the dangerous part is that you almost certainly trust at least one of them right now. Not a stranger, not an obvious enemy, someone close, someone you'd defend, someone who, if I described them to you right now, you'd feel a small cold drop in your stomach, because part of you has always known. Machiavelli spent his life studying power, and he came to one brutal conclusion about it: that the people who destroy you are almost never the enemies you can see. They're the ones you let close, the ones you trusted, the ones who smiled at you right up, until the moment it cost them nothing to let you fall. And here's the thing: you were taught the opposite. You were taught to trust, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to think the best of everyone. And that instinct, as good as it feels, is exactly the blind spot that the 5 people in this video walk right through. So I'm going to show you all 5, not to make you paranoid, to make you see clearly, so that your trust, which is precious, goes to the people who actually deserve it, instead of the ones quietly waiting to use it against you. Think about the last time you were really betrayed. Not a small letdown, a real one, the kind that changed how you saw someone. And be honest about something. When it happened, some part of you wasn't fully surprised, was it? There was a signal, early on, that you talked yourself out of. A moment where they showed you who they were, and you decided to see the best in them instead. That's the pattern, almost every time. The betrayal isn't the shocking part. The shocking part is how long you ignored the thing you already sensed. Right. You've been there. Most of us have been there more than once. Comment the word betrayed if you've ever been burned by someone you trusted, someone close, and looking back, you can see the warning sign you chose to ignore. I want to see how common this is, because it is nearly universal, and it is almost always one of these 5 people. By the end of this, you'll be able to spot all 5 before they cost you anything. Let me show you the 5 people Machiavelli says you must never fully trust. And then let me tell you the one who betrayed him. Person 1, the flatterer. The first person you must never fully trust is the one who only ever tells you what you want to hear. Machiavelli was so worried about this one that he devoted real attention to it, because he'd watched flattery destroy powerful people over and over. The flatterer is dangerous precisely because they feel so good to be around. They praise you, they agree with you, they tell you your ideas are brilliant, your decisions are right, your instincts are perfect, and slowly, without you noticing, they become a mirror that only shows you what you want to see. And a person surrounded by mirrors that only flatter loses the one thing that keeps them safe. The truth, here's why this is so deadly. The flatterer isn't praising you because they admire you. They're praising you because it's useful to them. Their flattery is a transaction, a way of getting close, staying in favor, extracting whatever they're after, while you glow in the warmth of their approval, and never notice their hand in your pocket. And the moment you actually need honest feedback, a real warning, a hard truth that could save you, they won't give it to you, because their whole strategy depends on keeping you comfortable, not keeping you safe. You can spot the flatterer with one test. Notice who in your life has never once told you something you didn't want to hear. Never disagreed, never gave you a hard truth. That person is not your friend. Your real friends are the ones willing to risk your displeasure to tell you something true. The flatterer never takes that risk, because your comfort is the product they're selling. And the higher you rise, the more of them you attract, because the more you have to offer, the more useful it becomes to keep you feeling good. That's the cruel part. Success surrounds you with flatterers at exactly the moment you can least afford to lose the truth. So here's your job. Think about the people around you and find the one whose feedback is always, suspiciously, exactly what you wanted to hear. And stop trusting their praise. Start valuing, instead, the person who's willing to tell you you're wrong, because that person, the uncomfortable one, is worth 10 flatterers. Who in your life only ever tells you what you want to hear? Comment it, just who they are to you. Because naming the flatterer is the first step to seeing past the mirror. Person 2, the one with nothing to lose. The second person you must never fully trust is the one who has nothing to lose. This one is pure Machiavelli, pure clear-eyed understanding of how people actually behave. Trust, when you look at it coldly, is often held in place not by love, but by consequences. Most people don't betray you because betraying you would cost them their reputation, the relationship, their standing, something. The cost is the leash, but a person who has nothing to lose has no leash, and a person with no leash is capable of anything, because there is no price they'll have to pay for hurting you. Think about it. Someone who is desperate, who is already ruined, who has no reputation left to protect, no relationship they're afraid to lose, no future they're trying to guard. That person can turn on you in an instant because betraying you costs them nothing. They've got nothing at stake, and people with nothing at stake are the most unpredictable, most dangerous people to depend on, not because they're evil, but because the normal forces that keep people loyal simply aren't operating on them. This is why Machiavelli warned against building your safety on people whose loyalty isn't anchored to anything. Ask yourself about the people you depend on. What would it actually cost them to betray me? If the honest answer is nothing, then you are not safe with them, no matter how nice they are right now. Their loyalty is running on fumes and good moods, and both of those run out. And this is why smart people, without ever being cruel about it, pay attention to what anchors the people around them. Not because they're keeping score, but because they understand that stable loyalty comes from stable lives. The person with a good reputation they're protecting, a relationship with you they value, a future they're building, all of that quietly holds them steady, even in a hard moment. The person with none of that, who's burned every bridge, who has nothing they're afraid to lose, isn't more likely to betray you because they're a worse person. They're more likely to betray you because there's simply nothing standing between them and the betrayal. Understand that, and you stop being shocked when the person with nothing to lose does exactly what people with nothing to lose tend to do. So here's your job. Look at the people whose loyalty you're counting on, and ask coldly, what holds them to me? What would they lose by turning on me? If the answer is a real cost, you're probably safe. If the answer is nothing, be careful and don't hand that person anything you can't afford to lose. Comment the word nothing if you just realized that someone you depend on has nothing actually holding them to you. No cost, no leash, nothing they'd lose by walking away. Because that realization is uncomfortable, but it's the kind that protects you. Person 3, the one who's you too much. The third person is the most surprising, and it catches good, generous people completely off guard. Never fully trust the person who owes you too much. You'd think it would be the opposite. You'd think someone you've helped enormously, someone deeply in your debt, would be your most loyal ally. Machiavelli understood the dark truth. It's often the reverse. When you help someone a little, they feel gratitude. But when you help someone so much that they can never possibly repay you, something poisonous can grow instead. Because a debt that can never be repaid becomes a weight, a humiliation, a constant reminder of their own helplessness, and people do not love the person who reminds them, every time they look at them, of how much they needed rescuing. This is one of the saddest patterns in human nature, and you've probably lived it. You went above and beyond for someone, bailed them out, carried them through the worst time of their life, and instead of undying loyalty, you got distance, coldness, sometimes even resentment, or a strange competitiveness, or a betrayal that made no sense to you. Because after everything you did, how could they? This is how. The size of the debt became unbearable to them, and the easiest way to escape an unbearable debt is to convince yourself the person you owe was never that good to begin with. To resent them, to pull away, to even harm them, so the ledger feels less lopsided. So here's your job, and it's a subtle one. When you help people, help them in a way that lets them keep their dignity. Let them do something for you in return, even something small, so the relationship stays balanced. Because a person who can never repay you is a person who may one day need to escape you. Generosity is beautiful, but generosity that crushes someone under an unpayable debt can quietly turn them into an enemy. Comment the word "used" if you've ever helped someone enormously and gotten coldness or betrayal in return, and never understood why until right now. Because this is one of the most painful lessons in this whole video, and you are not alone in having learned it the hard way. Might point the withheld fact. Now let me tell you about the person who betrayed Machiavelli, because it reveals why he understood all of this so painfully well. You might imagine that the author of these cold warnings was himself a cold, suspicious, untrusting man, someone who never let anyone close, who saw enemies everywhere. The truth is the exact opposite, and it's the key to his whole story. Machiavelli was, for most of his life, a loyal, trusting, devoted public servant. He believed in his republic, he believed in serving faithfully, he believed, deep down, that if you were loyal and useful and good at your work, the people and the system you served would stand by you. He trusted, that was his nature, and that trust is exactly what destroyed him. When the political winds shifted and the Medici family seized power, Machiavelli suddenly needed the very people he'd served alongside for years. The allies, the colleagues, the powerful men he'd worked with and trusted. And here is what happened. They vanished when he was accused, falsely, of conspiracy, when he was arrested, when he was tortured. The network of people he'd trusted his whole career did not rush to defend him. They went quiet. They protected themselves. They let him hang, because in that moment, defending Machiavelli cost them something, and abandoning him cost them nothing. Do you see it? He wasn't destroyed by an enemy he failed to guard against. He was destroyed by the collapse of the people he trusted. The flatterers who'd praised him melted away. The allies who owed him nothing had nothing holding them. The whole comfortable web of trust he'd built his life on turned out to be held together by convenience. And the moment convenience changed, it dissolved and left him alone in a cell. That's why The Prince reads the way it does. It's not the work of a man who was born cynical. It's the work of a man who trusted deeply, got betrayed completely, and sat down in his exile to write the warning he wished someone had given him. Every cold rule about who not to trust was paid for with his own broken faith. He's not telling you to trust no one. He's telling you to see clearly who you're trusting, because he didn't, and it cost him everything. Comment the word "trusted" if the person who hurt you most in your life was not an enemy, but someone you trusted completely. Because that was Machiavelli's wound, and it might be yours too. Person 4, the reconcile, an enemy. The fourth person you must be careful with is the one who was your enemy, and then suddenly, warmly, became your friend. Now, Machiavelli was actually subtle about this one, so let me be fair and give you both sides. Sometimes a former enemy becomes your most loyal ally, precisely because they feel they have something to prove, and they work harder to earn your trust than a friend ever would. That can happen, but the danger is the sudden, unexplained reversal. The person who hated you, opposed you, worked against you, and then, without any real reason you can point to, without anything actually changing between you, suddenly turns warm and friendly and close. That person you watch carefully, because ask yourself the key question: what changed? Real reconciliation has a reason. Something happened, something was resolved, an apology was made, a misunderstanding was cleared up. When an enemy becomes a friend for a clear, understandable reason, that can be genuine. But when someone who had every reason to dislike you suddenly wants to be close, and nothing has actually changed to explain it, you have to ask what they're now getting from being near you. Because people don't usually abandon a real grievance for no reason. If the grievance is gone, but nothing resolved it, the grievance didn't disappear. It just went underground and got a smile painted over it. The reconciled enemy who moves close without a real reason is often moving close to get access, to learn your weaknesses, to be positioned when the moment comes, exactly where they can do the most damage. Keep your enemies at a distance and they can only throw stones. Let a false friend inside and they're already standing next to everything that matters to you. And notice how this one works, because it's clever. The reconciled enemy doesn't come at you with hostility. That would put you on guard. They come at you with warmth, with charm, with an apology maybe, with a great deal of interest in you. And that warmth lowers exactly the defenses you'd raised against them when they were openly your enemy. You were safe from them when they hated you, because you were watching. The danger begins the moment you stop watching, and their sudden friendship is designed to make you stop watching. An open enemy is a known quantity, a former enemy who's now your close friend, for reasons you can't quite name, is a knife you've invited to sit at your table. So here's your job. If someone who used to oppose you has suddenly become warm, don't be paranoid, but do ask the honest question. What changed? If you can point to a real reason, wonderful, give it a careful chance. If you can't, keep them at arm's length, stay warm but watchful, and never hand them access to the things that could hurt you most. Person 5, the fair weather friend. And the fifth person, the most common of all, the one almost everyone has in their life right now. The fair weather friend, the one who is loyal only when it's easy. Machiavelli wrote about this with brutal clarity. People, he observed, will offer you everything when you don't need it. Their loyalty, their help, their devotion, all freely promised when times are good, and it costs them nothing. But the moment you actually need them, the moment standing by you, carries a real cost or a real risk. A startling number of them are simply gone. The friendship was real in a sense. It was just real only in good weather. You know this person. They're around for the celebrations, the good times, the moments when being your friend is fun and easy and reflects well on them. But think back to your hardest moment, the crisis, the failure, the time you really genuinely needed someone, and notice who showed up and who suddenly got busy, distant, unreachable. That sorting, who stays when it's hard, is the only real test of loyalty there is. Everything before the hard moment is just words. The hard moment is where you find out what the words were worth. And here's the key insight. You cannot tell a fair-weather friend from a true one during good times. They look identical when things are easy. That's the trap. You only find out in the storm, which is the worst possible time to discover you trusted the wrong person. So you have to watch for the smaller tests before the big one. The minor inconvenience they wouldn't tolerate for you. The small risk they wouldn't take. The little moment where helping you cost them something and they quietly chose themselves. Those small moments are previews of what they'll do in the big one. And notice how the fair weather friend makes you feel, because the feeling is part of the trap. They're often the most fun person in the room, the easiest company, the one who makes the good times feel great. And that pleasant feeling is exactly why you keep trusting them, why you keep expecting them to show up, why their disappearance in the hard moment shocks you every single time. You mistook a good time for a good bond, but those are not the same thing. Enjoyment is not loyalty. The person who is a joy in good weather and gone in bad weather is not a lesser friend who will improve. They are a specific kind of person, and the sooner you see them clearly, the less it hurts when the weather turns. So here's your job. Think about who actually showed up in your worst moment versus who was only ever there for the good times. And quietly, without any drama, adjust how much you trust each of them accordingly. Give your deepest trust to the ones who proved themselves in the storm. And enjoy the fair weather friends for exactly what they are, good time company, and nothing you'd ever lean your weight on. Comment the word storm if someone you were completely sure of vanished the exact moment you actually needed them. The crisis that showed you who was real. Because almost everyone has one of those stories, and naming it is how you stop being surprised by the next one. The contrarian core discernment, not paranoia. Now here is where I have to challenge you directly, because you might be taking the wrong lesson from all of this, and the wrong lesson is dangerous in its own way. You might be thinking, fine, the answer is to trust no one. To wall everyone off, suspect everyone, keep everyone at a distance, and never get hurt again. And I understand the impulse, but that is not the lesson, and living that way is its own kind of ruin. The person who trusts no one is not safe, they're just alone. They've traded the risk of betrayal for the certainty of isolation, and that's a terrible trade. A life with no trust in it is not a protected life. It's an empty one. The real lesson, the one Machiavelli actually points to, is not less trust. It's wiser trust. Trust is not supposed to be given to everyone equally, and it's not supposed to be withheld from everyone equally either. It's supposed to be aimed, earned, calibrated. You give your deepest trust to the few who have proven, through real tests and real costs, that they deserve it. And you give less to those who haven't. That's not paranoia. That's just refusing to hand something precious to people who haven't shown they'll protect it. Because here's the thing, the betrayed often forget. There are people in your life worth trusting completely. The ones who told you the hard truth, the ones who showed up in the storm, the ones whose loyalty cost them something, and they paid it gladly. The whole point of spotting the 5 dangerous people is not to become cold. It's to protect your trust so you have it to give to the ones who've earned it. Discernment isn't the enemy of connection. It's what makes real connection possible, because trust only means something when it's given to the right people. And let's honor that. Comment about the one person in your life you trust completely and who has earned it. The one who showed up when it was hard, the one who tells you the truth. I want this comment section full of them. Because in a video about who not to trust, they are the whole reason it matters. Name them, even just who they are to you, because they are the proof that discernment isn't about closing your heart. It's about guarding it well enough to open it to the right people. So let's bring the 5 together, because underneath them is one simple shift that changes everything about how you move through the world. The flatterer who only tells you what you want to hear. The one with nothing to lose, whose loyalty has no anchor. The one who owes you too much, whose debt has curdled into resentment. The reconciled enemy who came close for no real reason. And the fair-weather friend who vanishes the moment loyalty costs something. And here's the whole thing in one sentence. Asterisk, the people who destroy you are almost never the enemies you guard against. They're the ones you trusted without ever asking whether they'd earned it. That's the shift, not to trust less, to trust on purpose. To notice that you've been handing your trust out based on how someone makes you feel. The flatterer feels good, the fair-weather friend is fun, and to start handing it out, instead, based on what they've actually proven. Because comfort is not evidence, charm is not evidence, even history is not evidence. The only evidence of trustworthiness is how someone behaved when being loyal to you cost them something. Everything else is just a nice feeling, and nice feelings are exactly what the 5 people in this video use to get inside. So, Machiavelli, let me finish it. He learned all of this too late. He'd already given his trust to a system and a circle of allies that dissolved the moment he needed them. He'd already been tortured and exiled by the time he understood who he should never have trusted. And from that exile, betrayed and alone, he wrote it all down, not out of bitterness, but as a warning, so that someone, somewhere, 500 years later, wouldn't have to learn it in a prison cell the way he did. That someone is you, and here's what I want you to take from it. Machiavelli's failure wasn't that he trusted. Trusting is human and good and necessary. His failure was that he trusted without discernment. He gave his deepest faith to people who hadn't earned it, and withheld his caution from people who hadn't deserved it. And when the weather turned, he found out, all at once, in the worst possible way, who they really were. You get to find out earlier. You get to look at the 5 people in this video and quietly ask, before the storm, which of these am I trusting right now, and should I be? You don't have to cut anyone off today. You don't have to become cold or suspicious. You just have to open your eyes, look clearly at where your trust is going, and start aiming it at the people who've actually earned it, instead of the ones who just make you feel good. That one shift, from trusting by feeling to trusting by evidence, will protect you from almost every betrayal waiting in your future. Tell me which of the 5 you most need to watch out for right now. One word in the comments, and I read them: flatterer, fair-weather, the one who owes you. Whichever one made you think of a specific face. Mine, for a long time, was the flatterer, because I loved being told I was right, and I let people close who never once told me I was wrong. And it cost me. Not anymore. What's yours? Put it down below, and remember, your trust is one of the most valuable things you have. Stop giving it away to people who never earned it.